What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of The Torrent, a podcast giving you discussions on music, movies, TV, and video games. I'm your host, Nick, and I'm joined, as always, by Alan and Matt. Guys, what's up?
Hey, dude. I went to a casino yesterday, which
okay.
I know, great Labor Day weekend activity.
Yeah.
Anyway, I went to a casino yesterday, and I lost so much money so quick at the craps tables.
What?
It was the quickest I've ever. I'm kind of embarrassed, but I lost $200.
That's not terrible though.
In 15 minutes, though. It was nothing.
Craps is a dangerous game like that. You could definitely do that if the table's cold.
It's scary.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it was absurd. Have you guys been to casinos before?
Yeah, a couple times. I'm not. I wouldn't call myself a gambler, but I've been, and I kind of enjoy going sometimes. Sure.
What do you play if you do go?
I definitely want to get into craps more, but I definitely like playing roulette the most.
Ugh.
And you got the best odds to win. Yeah, if you just play the red and blacks and the evens and odds, you could probably make some money. You can grind out some stuff.
I guess, yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. I've only been to a casino I think once, and I just went with a friend and I watched him play blackjack because he was super good at blackjack. And other than that scares me. And kind of what you went through is what what I'm afraid of, losing money that quickly. So
yeah, it sucked.
Sorry.
Well, today on the show we're going to be talking football and football movies, and to do that we have a special guest on the show. It's our first ever return guest. He's the host of the popular Circling the Wagons podcast. It's Nate. Nate, welcome to the show.
Hey guys, thanks for having me on again. It's good to talk to you.
Yeah, welcome back, man.
Yeah. Hey, Matt, it's not just you that loses money every time you go to the casino. It's me too. It happens.
It's everyone.
Craps is a fun game though. It's one of the only games that everyone can win at the same team. Whereas blackjack, sometimes some people win, some people lose. I don't know. I kind of like craps.
Yeah, it's a nice community game where everyone's kind of in it together, and you cry together and you cheer together. It's nice.
Yeah, it's complicated, but once you learn it, I think it's fun. I definitely want to get into it a little bit more next couple times I go to a casino.
You just get a nice cold table or something? Just everyone just crapping out?
Yeah, it was like someone would roll a 6 and everyone put all their bets out because the puck was on, and then a 7 would come up immediately, and that happened 5 times in a row, and I'm like, what am I doing with my money?
Brutal.
Yeah.
Worst.
Nate, so what's new with you? How you doing?
I'm doing great, man. I'm glad you guys had me on after our amazing country music podcast where we talked about that, and it sounds like we might have converted you a little bit, Nick. I've heard to the last few podcasts, and you've been putting some country songs on the weekly download, so I'm proud of you.
Well, you and Alan did a great job of really contextualizing country music for me, and made me really kind of appreciate it a lot more. So once I had the right mindset going into it, I think I was able to find some artists that I really liked and connect with. So good. Thank you, both of you.
So now that we're getting into football season, the weather's going to start to get a little bit colder. So honestly, I'm not going to be as big of a country music fan, but I'll still listen to it a little bit.
Oh yeah. You save it for the
seasonal.
summertime naturally. Yeah.
Say it's going to be cold. It was 90 degrees today.
Yeah, it's September. Yeah. All right, cool guys. Well, let's get this show going here. So before we do some football talk, you guys want to get into the news?
Yep.
Let's do it. All right.
Yep.
This is the weekly download. All right, so this first news story today kind of starts off with a somber note. We wanted to touch a little bit on the Madden tournament shooting. It kind of is very appropriate for what we're talking about today, football and video games. I think we are all in agreement that what happened was terrible. We've had a ton of school shootings, and now we get this video game tournament shooting, which is just god awful. But it was kind of released / mentioned that the shooter was a Bills fan. Nate, me, you, Matt, I think you're kind of a Bills fan too, right, Matt?
Yeah.
How
some people I am.
Yeah, that's good. You should. How does that feel to know that one of the maybe a Bills Mafia member or somebody who's a big Bills fan was committed this? It kind of feels weird, don't you think?
So, yeah, first of all, like you said, it sucks in general.
Yeah.
It's terrible what's going on, and it seems like it's happening on a daily, weekly, almost daily basis. There was another shooting today, actually.
Oh, there
And
was. I didn't even hear about this.
yeah, it was in San Bernardino. But
Oh my God.
yeah, I just saw it on Twitter before that. So it does suck. It was a Bills fan. I saw that, but like as someone who runs like a Bills podcast Twitter account, like there's some asshole Bills fans out there.
Really?
Like not to put it like they're everywhere. First of all, they're like no matter what team you are. And because like I do a lot of Bills tweeting, like I'll get it from like Jaguar fans and Jets fans and whatever. So there's assholes everywhere. So it just kind of sucks though. It's this guy was a Bills fan, but man, like I mean, there's stabbings at NFL games sometimes. I
Yeah.
mean, not all the time, obviously, it's rare, but I mean, there's every once in a while, you know, something violent happens. So
Right.
it does suck. It was a Bills fan, but I mean, there's a lot of jerk fans everywhere. So I'm not surprised. I mean, I've almost gotten into fights in Bills games,
Yeah.
you know, in
Ooh.
general. So
Yeah.
I mean, not it just being there, you know, it's just one of those things. Tailgating, drinking a lot, opposing teams, and it's just a lot of, you know, liquor induced testosterone. So so not surprised that the guy was a football fan, but I mean it does suck it was a Bills fan. It doesn't
Yeah.
really look good for us.
How do you think it? What do you guys think about, you know, him supposedly? Well, he had a past record of some mental illness, some trouble with the police, but sounds like he was a frequent flyer at these Madden tournaments, and he targeted, you know, he targeted a lot of stuff to the people who like beat him, or just like guys who were talking shit to him or something at the tournament. So, you know, in terms of gamer culture, Matt, Alan, you know, we see on Xbox Live, PlayStation Online or whatever, we hear people talking to you on the mic, and we hear some vulgar, like bad stuff. This doesn't really help. It doesn't really help video games. So what do you guys think?
I think most people in the world are insecure.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like I'm insecure a lot of times,
Right.
and I think the way people now are expressing their insecurities with the internet and everything is not a good
It's not healthy.
thing. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's everyone's like being toxic and everyone's so rude on the internet, and there's just like a lot of horrible stuff being posted and a lot of stuff that people are seeing are really bad, and I just think that type of toxicity is just really detrimental to our like emotional health in general. So
Yeah.
I don't support that at all. I absolutely hate like people who trash talk and stuff like that. I just think it's totally not necessary. So
Right.
it's a shame. It's a shame that has happened.
And I think long term, I think we'll probably circle back. I know we've touched a little bit on swatting, the issue of swatting on an episode before
Yeah.
on the podcast, and there's some gamer culture things I think we can really dive deep on, and maybe you know, hope to, you know, really kind of discuss it in a future episode at some point, and really kind of talk through these issues and see what, you know, what could be done in terms of gamer culture on how to fix some of this stuff, because it's terrible.
Yeah.
You know, one thing is it doesn't help is the whole theory that video games cause violence, because that's been something that's been thrown around in politics
Yep.
as of late as to trying to figure out what the cause of all these shootings are. And some people want to blame guns, and some people want to blame movies, and some people want to blame video games.
Mhm.
And this was the first, at least that I know of, instance that happened at some sort of video game event.
Right.
So
Right.
it definitely, and I'm with you. I mean, I played hundreds of video games that, you know, shoot people or shoot zombies or whatever. And I don't think it makes me more inclined to shoot anyone. I grew up with guns and shooting guns and being around guns, but it doesn't make me, you know, more likely to pull the trigger on an actual person.
Yeah.
But
Right.
it doesn't help that cause for people afar that don't either play video games or don't use guns or whatever, and say, oh, that's why they're doing this, you know?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So
Man,
it sucks for people like us, people like you guys, you know, that play video games and talk about them to even have that suggested. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I think we
Can
can
I-
also. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
Can I say one more thing too? And obviously not condoning this because it's a terrible act.
Yeah.
But I think some of the most frustrated times in my life have been playing video games, like not necessarily against other people. although that happens. But like, just like, have you guys ever played a video game and you're like, this game must be programmed against me right now? There's no way this many things could be happening against me to make me lose or get killed or whatever.
I don't know about you guys, but I know when we played a lot of League of Legends, I got pretty frustrated with that game a lot of times. I don't know how you guys feel about it.
Oh, I totally agree. I think some of my most frustrating times in my life have been video games too, and I don't know why. I'm not exactly sure why that's more frustrating. Like, it's kind of like the driving thing. Like, driving is super frustrating. I don't know why.
Yeah. Sometimes just things just spark, like things snap in people, whether it be, like golf. I know a lot of people get rage out when they play golf. I know I do sometimes. Sometimes it's video games. Other times it's road rage. I think it's just part of life, man. Like, I don't know.
Yeah. That's interesting.
Yeah, so one thing you don't have to deal with while golfing or driving is like someone doing something to you or you having a bad golf round and then the other guy's talking shit in your ear.
Oh yeah.
Like, hey, like I like, yeah, not condoning it, but I've never been in that instance. I imagine that's infuriating.
Oh,
especially if you're someone with mental illness and access to a gun readily available.
Yes.
Like,
you can see how easily a situation can go bad for sure. For sure.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's move on from this here. Let's get back into the fun stuff. So, real quick, let's talk a little bit about just Madden itself while we're kind of on it. Are you guys big Madden players? Have you played Madden a ton? I know, Alan, Matt, you guys play a lot of video games. Do you dabble in the sports genre a lot or not really?
I personally don't.
Mm-hmm.
They never really were that fun for me.
Okay.
I mean, besides like NFL Blitz and
I mean, who does
stuff?
Yeah,
stuff like that. No, not really. How about you, Alan?
I was a big fan of the NHL games growing up. I played those a crap ton with
Same
with Kevin.
for me. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, those were a lot of fun. And then I think I played a couple football games. Like, I played with my dad, and eventually he'd figure out how to beat me, and I'd have to figure out how to beat him, and we'd have a little back and forth competition there. So
yeah. Nate, how about you? I take it you played a lot of Madden.
Oh yeah, Madden was my game growing up. I know I talked about this on the country music podcast, but my best friend, the guy who was best man at my wedding, like beat me like 63-7. Like when I first met him in high school, when I transferred high schools.
Oh yeah,
and, and I was just like, dude, does this guy want to be my friend, or he just had me over just to kick my ass? Like,
right.
But what I like about Madden specifically, because I know we're going to talk about football later and football movies and in football in general, is that as a football fan, like, you kind of got a better idea of how the game's actually played. So, like the idea of like Call of Duty, like giving you an idea of how war actually happens, and tactical missions and troops and being a soldier. Like, this was how you call a game. How you basically called plays, understanding offensive and defensive schemes. Before I played Madden, I didn't know what a draw play was or what a nickel defense was. I mean, I'd heard it, they talk about it, but now, kids have been playing it. I've been playing it for, like, you actually know, like, you're calling out, you're yelling at the screen because you know what they're doing, and it's stupid because you've played it before, and you're like, this always ends up in a sack. What are you doing?
Yeah.
So it's really kind of cool to see that. It's and although over the years it hasn't, I mean, the graphics have gotten better, the tackles have gotten better, just small nuances, that ability to understand a game from that perspective. It's because if just from the outside, football is very complex. Like, if you try to get people from different countries to understand football, they have a hard time with it. Like, soccer is very simple, baseball is pretty simple, but like football is just, so I would tell them play Madden, and you just kind of get an idea for it. So I've always loved playing Madden, and at one point there was actually a game that competed with them in the early 2000s. What was it called?
NFL Fever.
Yeah, something like that. It was the ESPN version of it. It was Game Day, I think. Maybe Game Day or
Game Day. Okay.
Or the ESPN version of it. It was half the price, and it was just destroying Madden.
Yeah.
And then Madden bought him out, so like,
of course, naturally.
Of course, naturally. I've always been a fan of it. I still have, like 3, 4, 5 different versions of Madden.
Yeah, I agree. I think I think it really gives gamers a deeper appreciation for the sport that they're happy to be playing. I think you definitely learn a lot. You learn a lot of the strategies. And I heard, on the professional side, a lot of these guys that are in the business side of the sports, the statisticians and stuff, also big gamers, also big like sports video game fans, like a lot of Madden players, a lot of NHL players, and they really are able to figure out some good tactics and some strategies, winning strategies through video games, which I think is phenomenal.
Oh yeah, well, like there's this theory that the next generation of coaches and stuff like that are going to be from the gaming generation.
Okay,
right? Because the youngest coaches right now are maybe in their late 30s, early 40s.
Okay,
and that's like a little bit older. But I mean, the problem with these older coaches is they haven't gone through the simulation of going for it on fourth down all the time. I mean, whereas like a gamer would go through it like 8 times in a day. And these guys do it once a week, 16 weeks a year, whereas, a normal guy who plays a game has gone through it thousands of times in a year.
Right.
So, like, these next upcoming coaches will be that much further along than the old coaching regimes of today, because they'll just have played iterations upon iterations of it. It's kind of a cool idea.
Yeah. Cool. Okay, let's move on to the next topic here, just for the sake of time. So we got a pretty big game reveal trailer last week. It was Cyberpunk 2077. Now, Alan and Matt, we had previewed this game on our 2018 preview, I think, or E3 episode.
E3,
yeah, E3. I was really excited for it. I think, Alan, you might have predicted that this game might have been kind of a bust.
Yep.
I'm interested to hear what you think of it now that we've seen gameplay of the game.
Yeah, I think I'm still going to stand by my prediction.
Okay. All right.
But I'm starting to kind of bite my words a little bit because
I was going to say, I'm surprised you're saying that.
Yeah.
Looking at it now, it actually does look very, very cool. It looks very unique.
Mm-hmm.
I think it definitely has that Mass Effect kind of style, but it really seems to kind of have its own element as far as gaming goes, and it looks like it's going to be a little bit more original than I had originally anticipated. So
yeah, it definitely has. If you guys have ever played the game Deus Ex, the Deus Ex series, Alan alluded to a little Mass Effect-y. There's a game that it wasn't well received, but it was a very cyberpunkish game. It was called Syndicate. I think Skrillex did a song for it. That's why it was kind of popular, where when dubstep was a big thing. It kind of is a blend of all those. And then also there's huge Blade Runner vibe to it. So if you like the movie Blade Runner, it's got a lot of that aesthetic to it. Matt, I'll get to your opinion in a second here, but I was just blown away by it. Like, I thought it was so cool. I love the single player RPG story elements to it. You can create your own character. So there's no class in the game. You can kind of fluidly build your character how you want to, and the game will adjust to you there. They showed us a couple of missions in the game. You got like a bullet time perk. You got guns that have smart bullets, so you don't have to aim at them. They will just go right to the guy. There's a lot of climbing mechanics. There's a lot of cool like hacking and tech abilities in the game. I thought this looked awesome. I can't wait to get my hands on this. I gotta admit, I am a little intimidated by the game, just because of the sheer amount of content and the sheer like depth, like how much goes into each mission. But Matt, I want to hear your thoughts real quick.
I think I'm going to add this to the list, the now growing list of games that I probably won't play, but I really want to watch you play them, Nick, when you do play them.
Yeah,
okay.
I'm on the same page there.
This like single player kind of thing, I just can't get on board with it. But if it was like watching a TV show, like talking with you and like watching you play and stuff,
Yeah.
I would like it then.
Okay.
I do think the shooting looks really fun. The gameplay itself looked awesome. They were like shooting through walls and they were like breaking off like the cement and then going actually through the wall. I think stuff like that is so cool and really realistic. So that's what I thought would look awesome. But
okay, cool. Yeah. Well, when I'm definitely getting the game probably, unless like reviews come out and it's like a 0 out of 10, which I highly doubt. But if you guys want to watch me play, for sure, and maybe I'll throw it up on Twitch on the Torrent Podcast stream, and then we can
that's a good idea.
do it that way too. So
cool. Yeah, I like that.
Nice. All right, moving on to the next topic here. This, I think, is going to be some great discussion. So Eminem dropped a surprise review on Friday. Album is called Kamikaze. It took, man. So his last couple albums haven't been great. I'm just gonna say it that way. But he came out with this Kamikaze album, and I thought he was back to form, back to the old Eminem, and he took a lot of shots at the rap game. Now, Alan, you and I talk a lot about, and Matt too, the trap game right now, the rap, like mumble rappers and the trap style of rapping, and he took a ton of shots at that whole genre and really kind of said, hey, like, check yourself a little bit, like, you guys aren't, this isn't great, like, you guys could do better. Obviously he said that way more vulgar and provocative, but in general, that's what he said. I think he made a couple of comments about you guys are drinking lean and getting diamonds, and I'm looking to double commas, essentially, saying like, I'm just, I'm trying to save my money, get super rich, and you guys are all wasting it on diamonds and lean and stuff like that, and scissor and all that. I think he calls out Wayne a couple times, or he says you guys are trying to be Wayne, referencing Lil Wayne. He blatantly makes fun of Migos. He makes fun of Gucci Gang. He makes fun of Drake, and then he goes really hard after MGK, because him and MGK got some beef right now. That could be a whole nother episode, I guess. And of course, he's very anti-Trump, so he goes after Trump and the whole Trump administration a ton on this album as well. So, real quick before I keep blabbering on here, what do you guys, Alan, Matt, and even Nate, I don't know if you've heard any of these songs yet, but what do you guys think of Eminem's Kamikaze album so far?
Yeah, I think it was definitely a step up from his last album, Revival.
Yeah.
I wasn't a real huge fan of that, and I think he just kind of did some weird stuff with it.
Yep.
But this was definitely like back to real core Eminem style rap. He did a pretty good job of kind of staying away from the mainstream stuff that you hear. Like, he kind of kept his own style and didn't really try to do what everyone else was doing, which was nice. And he still had some really, really good verses, really good flow, and just, I think overall it was just a really good album to listen to.
Yeah.
There weren't really any like real bangers, like stuff that you could listen to just for fun, but it was definitely like a good album as far as just listening to a good rapper rap about some really intense stuff. So
he's got some pretty good flows and some, like, he's almost like transitioned himself into that chopper territory, like a Tech Nine or a Twista. Like he raps pretty quick now. I think he's kind of changed his style a little bit in that, his raps, he raps pretty quick, and and his flow is different than what it was back in the day. He's definitely changed styles, and he's become more of a chopper than like a mumble rapper, as they say now, I guess.
Yeah.
Matt, how about you? Do you have any thoughts on it? Did you listen to it at all?
Yeah, I did a little bit. I really don't normally like this type of music. I sort of like, and I guess I'd say I like appreciate the things that he's talking about, because I think he's got a lot of valid points. I just normally don't listen to that kind of stuff, and I think Eminem is, I don't know, he's fine, I guess. I just didn't have as strong of opinions as you guys did on this, but I really like when people call out other people for doing garbage, and anyone calling out Trump for everything that he does. So.
Right.
Yeah, that's how I felt. Nate, did you hear it?
No, I didn't. I actually, I haven't heard this latest album, but I was always a big Eminem fan when he was coming out, and followed him through, like, I remember his beef with Ja Rule back in the day.
Wow, yeah.
Wow, yeah.
Remember that, right?
Yeah.
I think he started G Unit, which I was a fan of at the time.
He was a member.
50 Cent and G Unit.
Oh, no, wasn't he in D12? I thought Eminem's group.
Oh, he
D12.
was in D12.
Oh, D12,
Yeah,
that's what it was, yeah.
Yeah, that's right. He started D12, but he like started 50 Cent also, who started I don't know.
Yeah.
That whole
right,
gang.
Right.
That whole sect of rap. But
actually, real quick, speaking of D12, there is a whole song dedicated to D12 on this album. It's called Stepping Stones, where he's pretty much apologizing for being a shitty friend and blackballing some of those guys, and how they all grew apart despite how close they were back on D12. So it's funny that you mentioned them, because I think he's recognizing that he lost some friends, and that he kind of did things bad, and the song is, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to use you guys as a stepping stone. as opposed to, propping you guys up. So it's pretty relevant. Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. So I guess the question I have for you, since you've listened to it, is the music sounds good. Is it still going to be relevant in today's radio? Is it going to be played at all, or is Eminem past that point of he's just done? Journey can only make so many albums that are going to be played on the radio.
Yeah. I don't think he's done. I think people are going to listen to it. It's just not going to be something that's going to be played on the radio too much. A lot of these are just diss tracks, essentially, just which I think would be really weird for them to play on the radio. Be like, all right, here's Stir Fry by Migos, and then follow up right with here's The Ringer by Eminem, where he completely just trashes Migos on that. It's just going to be kind of weird. But I think I think he's still kind of relevant. I think he'll hang around for a little bit. I'm curious to see what the younger people have to say about this album, because I have a lot of younger cousins, and they love Migos and they love Cardi B, and they love all these really popular rappers right now. I'm really curious after they listen to this if they're gonna go, Eminem's old as fuck, he's not relevant anymore, who cares? Or if they're gonna be like, whoa, he's saying some honest shit right now. I'm curious to see what the younger people would say about this.
I honestly think because he's kind of saying fuck the game right now, a lot of people wouldn't really agree with it, because I feel like the majority of kids these days just kind of whatever's popular,
right?
And so they're gonna be like, oh, he was dissing Future, or he was dissing Lil Yachty, or something like that.
Or Drake's huge right now, so
exactly. So
yeah, we'll see. I think I've listened to it the most, and Alan, once you get a couple more listens in, I'd really value some more of your opinion. But I'm gonna give this, I think, a 4.25 out of 5.
What?
Yeah,
Are you kidding me?
I as an entire album, listen, and here's my frame of reference for it, okay? I like rap. I think rap has a lot of good singles out, singular songs. It's been a very long time that I've actually sat and listened to an entire rap album multiple times and been like, you know what, I like this song. So as a whole, I think this is a pretty good album for me, and I'm also an Eminem fan, so I appreciate this a lot. And I think he's, a lot of people are going to take issue with what he said about all these rappers, but I think he's really trying to push rap. I mean, there's a couple lines in there that says knowledge is power, but it's only powerful if you acknowledge it. Saying hey, rappers, you guys got this talent. Why are you making choruses that go Gucci gang, Gucci gang, Gucci gang, Gucci gang, Gucci? And, instead of being
one time, Nick.
Instead of making something that's actually creative and unique and thought provoking, which I think is what Eminem is trying to do. So as an intent, I think he did a really good job. So I'm gonna give it a 4.25 out of 5.
Damn, I think that's really gracious, but okay.
Well, for that intent though, I think that's a good point.
Yeah.
And I like that. Instead of just shouting random words and repeating the same thing over and over again.
Yeah.
Having a purpose is pretty cool.
Yeah.
I support that.
So, we'll see. We'll debate it. I'm sure as the drama continues, we'll debate more and more on it. All right, cool. So let's move on to some music picks here. Alan, why don't you start us off with yours? Because I'm interested to talk about yours here.
Sure. So my music pick is called Hoodie by Hey Violet. And this is basically the full encompassment of teenage angst for a 16-year-old girl. And the lyrics are just extremely cheesy and just very, very cliche, but the music is really interesting and it's got a good beat to it. And for some reason, I just find this song so catchy and so ridiculous to listen to.
What's the premise of the song, though? Just explain that a little bit, because it's absolutely ridiculous.
So this girl, I think it's implied that she broke up with her boyfriend, or her boyfriend broke up with her.
Right.
And she still has his hoodie, and she wears it when she sleeps, and wears to think of him as a memory. So that's the whole theme of the song. It doesn't deviate. It doesn't get deep at all. It's just about the hoodie. So
talking about it still smelling like him or whatever, and my god, it was making me laugh hysterically. It's a song. That's a song for it.
So for all our teenage girl listeners out there, definitely listen to the song.
Nice. I had a couple good ones here. The first up was Upside Down by The Story So Far. The story so far is, I think, currently my favorite punk band that's out right now, pop punk band. They've matured a ton. They're coming out with an album this month, actually. And I think so far everything that's been released, this is shaping up to be a pretty good fall album. This one, they've slowed down a little bit. They're not as loud and angsty and higher energy punk. This is more like chill, super catchy, relaxing style, which is turning some people off, but so far I'm really digging it, and I'm really excited for this album to come out. So Upside Down by Story So Far is my first one. And then the second one is Fuss and Fight by Koe Wetzel. This is another Texas country artist along the lines of Cody West, who I mentioned a couple episodes ago.
Kanye's little brother, yeah.
Yeah. yeah, that's right, Alan. Yep, Kanye's little brother. Yep. This Fuss and Fight song is kind of a higher energy, kind of almost country rock-ish vibe to it. He's got a way more twangy voice than I care to admit, but for some reason, it doesn't bother me in this instance. I think it's awesome, and I think it really adds to the character of the song. So Fuss and Fight by Koe Wetzel was mine.
You know what it kind of sounds like after you sent it to us to listen to?
Yeah.
George Thorogood.
Really?
Like that sort of like that South, like, rhythmic guitar,
Okay.
and the electric guitar, like,
All right.
it's just,
Yeah.
you listen to it again and think like George Thorogood, like Smoking in the Boys Room, or
Okay. I'll write that down here.
one whiskey, one
One shot, one beer.
one beer, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I probably have heard more
Listen
than
to
I
that
care to
again.
admit. Yeah. Okay. George Thorogood. I'll write that down. I'll check him out.
Hey, nothing wrong with George Thorogood, man. Classic.
Classic, man. All right, cool. Matt, what's your pick here? I like your song too. You got on the list.
Okay, so my song is just a great song if you're with your boyfriend or girlfriend and you want to
No, it's not.
get the mood a little sensual.
Don't listen to him.
Or you want to rage.
It's pretty multi-purpose. It's
Yeah.
called Booty Man, and it's by Tim Wilson, and it's just a song about talking about all the different types of booties, and wet booty, dry booty, breakfast booty, lunch booty, supper booty.
This
Double
isn't a
wide.
rap song though, right? This is like a electronic
like a-
country song, essentially. Like
It's kind of so Tim Wilson, honestly, Tim Wilson is a comedian who makes like songs, and I'm pretty sure this album is like supposed to emulate a 70s style type of music, so it's
Okay.
almost like little disco kind of dancey,
Yeah.
but like a
Funky,
little
yeah.
funk.
Yeah.
And it sounds really good. I went to a wedding this past weekend, so congrats Connor and Louisa.
Ooh, yeah.
And so I went to the wedding, and they played this song at the reception twice. So that's how into it everyone got.
Wow.
So,
All right.
So
Okay.
Booty Man, every single person should listen to this song just as an experience. You need it. So.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's really good. If you're planning a wedding, make sure that you have your DJ play Booty Man.
Twice.
It's
Yeah,
on the
at
must
least
play.
at least once.
At least. Nice. Cool. All right, Nate, what do you have for us today?
So my songs are a little bit with having to be in the same line as the football sort of theme of today's episode.
Awesome.
First one, I heard it yesterday in the car, and dude, I still get goosebumps when I hear the song. I know it's an oldie, but Queen, "We Will Rock You."
Oh, okay. All right.
I knew you were going to say that. Yes. That's such a good one.
Classic.
It is. It's just like, either if you're thinking of the Mighty Ducks or whatever, like, I don't know, man. It just, I've heard it probably a million times. It's one of those songs that just doesn't get old. I heard it on the way there, and I'm like, I got to use that one. And I know you guys talked about this on a previous episode, the Bohemian Rhapsody movie coming out,
Yes.
talking about
Yeah. that
Freddie
was awesome.
Mercury and Queen, and that looks awesome. I'm psyched for that movie when that comes out. But,
Mhm.
but yeah, it's just a classic sports song, right?
That song, I always feel like it's very cliched and overplayed, but every time I listen to it, I'm like, that's a good song, though. Like, it just gets me every time. Yeah. Good pick.
Yeah. And the second pick I have is actually an entire album.
Oh,
So
okay.
It's Jock Jams Volume 1.
Yes.
and I don't know. I mean, are you Jock Jams, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Very familiar
Okay.
with Jock Jams.
Okay, good. I grew up on Jock Jams in junior high, and I just went over the album again because I had it in tape version, so I never actually had it in CD or like that's how old it is. And
Wow.
like, there's a lot of good songs on it, just like songs that you just know. So, like for example, "Whoop, There It Is," that's on
Oh
there.
yeah. Whoop, there it
You
is.
know.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Classic.
Yep.
"It Takes Two."
Oh,
Yeah.
The "Gonna Make You Sweat" song, which is "Everybody Dance."
Oh
Now.
yeah.
You know that one?
Wow.
Yeah, that one. Yeah.
That's some
Yeah.
classic
Which-
sports songs. Wow.
yeah,
That's
exactly, right?
crazy.
I always thought that was Marky Mark, by the way. Definitely not Marky Mark. I always thought,
Oh,
with
I-
the
yeah.
dude. Yeah, CNC. So, just a little trivia for you.
Wow. Nice.
Nice.
Hip Hop Hooray.
Yeah. I mean, Cotton Eye
un-
Joe's on that one, right? Too. Like, isn't that one?
No, that
Or is
one
that-
might be Volume 2.
Volume 2. Oh,
But-
okay. All
but,
right.
You know,
Let me get in the
The
volume
world
too.
wasn't
Yeah, I know.
ready for Cotton Eye Joe yet.
I know Cotton Eye Joe. Yeah, a little bit further in the discography there.
Yeah.
But like YMCA,
Okay.
unbelievable. And I don't know if you guys know this. Well, if you've ever been to a sports game or a hockey game, Rock and Roll Part 2. Do you know that one?
No.
Which is
I'm sure if
there's
I
no-
heard it, I would know it. Yeah.
there's no words to this song. It's just da-na-na-na-na, hey.
Oh,
Oh,
that
that's
was-
an actual
yeah.
song.
That's
I
that
thought it was
is.
like I thought it was just like a cheer they did it. Wow. Okay.
I know,
That
me
one-
too.
That was a quintessential hockey arena song for me. I don't know why. Like, I just always would hear that going to a hockey game. So that
Always.
that brings back some memories. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Always Rock and Roll Part 2. I don't know what Part 1 was, but that was Part 2. So
Cool.
those are my music picks.
Very
Nice.
nice. I like the theme there, Nate. Very nice.
Yeah. Way to
Spot on.
tie it all together.
Yeah. All right. If you want to as usual, if you want to get in touch with us, you can find us at The Torrent Pod on Twitter and Facebook, and the Torrent Podcast at gmail.com. Don't forget, we have our merchandise store, which you can find in the link in the description of the episode, and you can find us on Twitch as well. Also, be sure to tell your friends about us. Hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, rate and review the episodes and the entire show, and don't forget you can find us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and the rest of the places you can find any podcasts.
That's right.
All right, Nate. So, as I mentioned off the top of the show, we wanted to have you on to talk a little bit about football and football movies. So I want to start by kind of talking about the season overlook. NFL starts this week on September 6th. Everyone's probably picked their fantasy teams by now. Everyone's gearing up. I want to talk specifically about the Bills season. You are the host, as I mentioned off the top of the show, of the Circling the Wagons podcast. How do you feel the Bills are going to look this season? I know they finally narrowed it down to like their two quarterbacks, Nathan Peterman and Josh Allen. So what are your predictions for the Bills this season?
So actually, they just came out today announcing that Nathan Peterman will be the starting quarterback.
Okay.
So that's been decided. I don't know. I've been a huge proponent of that. Real quick though, before we go into like the Bills specifically,
Sure. Yeah.
like it's crazy now that Labor Day starts and like in a week from now we're starting football.
Yeah.
Because like summer for me, and I don't know about you guys, I know Matt, you're a teacher, so this is definitely your favorite time of year, like summer and everything, but it's my favorite season for sure. And the only thing that's good about summer ending, because when we were younger we used to go back to school then, and so it's kind of like a drag a little bit, but football starting for me has always been like the counterbalance, like, oh, hey, it sucks that my favorite season is ending, but football starts. It's still nice weather. It's still, starting out. So I love this time of year, and it's always exciting for me. So, but as a Bills fan, in general, I'm not really sure what to think of the team this season. They've lost some players through retirement, both unexpected, some good players. They picked up some really good free agents and different rookies, but if you just look at it from general overview, the Bills season doesn't look like it's going to go too well, just from the talent they've lost, what they've shown in the preseason, and stuff like that.
Yeah, and I know a lot of people have been really excited about this season because they made the playoffs last year. They ended the drought. A lot of people are thinking they would carry the momentum into this season, but I think I have to agree. Just looking at the roster, I mean, I don't think we can take it too much farther than we did last year.
No, the roster, the very tough schedule they have at the beginning of the season. I mean,
Yeah.
they have Baltimore, Minnesota, and I forget the third one. It's a really good defensive team. Oh, San Diego, that's what it was.
Oh,
and like
okay.
these are going to be tough teams to play against, especially with a guy who hasn't started that many games in the NFL. So
Right.
it's going to be, and of course, from the outside, from the general football, media, is they look at Nathan Peterman as the guy who threw 5 interceptions in one half, which historically was the worst start to any football game ever.
Dang.
So that sucks. But I mean, the guy's come back. He's shown a lot of perseverance.
Yeah.
And a lot of mental toughness, and he won the starting job outright over the guy who was picked 7th overall in the draft as in Josh Allen, who is supposedly going to be the franchise quarterback in the future. To me, this decision had to be made to keep Josh Allen from getting exposed with a terrible offensive line.
Yeah.
And I think, though, but like we said earlier, looking at it on paper, the Bills look like they should have a worse season, even though, they ended the drought and they made the playoffs last year. But this time last year, we were thinking the same thing. We thought, they traded away players. They got rid of very skilled players, people that, we thought were going to be the core of the team. They got rid of them. A new coaching staff comes in and they make the playoffs for the first time in 17 years. So I don't think that you can I think people don't put enough into coaching. So even though the players aren't looking as good as they were last, or in past, I think they still have a chance to do well. But what really sucks is 25% of their cap is being spent on players that aren't on the team. So that's never good. So
yeah,
I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah,
we'll see. I mean, I don't think any of the Bills fan base is thinking this is going to be another playoff run. It'll be great if it does happen, but if it doesn't, it'll be another year. No one said it was going to be a 1-year process or a 2-year process.
Yep.
So, you got to trust the process,
Trust
man.
the process. Yeah, that's right. What do you think is going to be a strength of the Bills this year? I mean, obviously right now the biggest name guy we got on the team is LaShawn McCoy, who's in a little bit of legal trouble, perhaps, but still slated to be the starting running back. The running game took a little bit of a hit last year, so do you think the Bills are going to reestablish a stronger run game? Do you think it's going to be about the same? What are you thinking? What do you think is going to be the strongest aspect of the Buffalo Bills this year?
Well, I think the run game is going to be a lot better this season than it was last season. Their coach, their offensive coordinator, who they've since fired after only 1 season, is gone, and they have a new offensive coordinator who, by all accounts, plays to the strengths of his players as opposed to just, this is my scheme, this is what we're going to do, and just run it. I'm expecting a lot more trickery and a lot more disguised plays. So I think the offense overall will be a little bit better. I think the defense is going to take a step back. There's just too many holes in different areas, and guys are young, and it's just going to take some time. But yeah, I would say the running game will be better, and I think the quarterback play might actually be a little bit better, even though it's a new guy. I mean, it's one of the reasons why they didn't keep Tyrod Taylor, is because he just wasn't passing the ball. He just wasn't taking chances, and they just got sick of it. Even though he wasn't forcing turnovers, he wasn't winning them games either. So
right.
I know I'm excited to see it. Again, like I said, if you take a look at it, their offensive line, they've lost players, guys that are probably better than the people that have replaced them since then. So, on paper, but then again, a new offensive scheme, better coaches. I mean, it makes a difference.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, go for it.
No, I was just saying, like in Madden, like there were things that, you would play or do just to get an advantage, and they don't even like just motion before the play or just something stupid like that, like audibling out of plays and changing the play at the line of scrimmage. Like they just don't do that.
Yeah.
I'm like, how am I someone that's played Madden and I can figure that out versus these guys that have been coaches for 30 years? I don't know. So,
I don't know, man.
It could have been that they didn't trust the players to do that, but also I think it's just their play calling lacked creativity. But I don't know. We'll see. I'm always the hopeful, optimistic Bills fan and football fan, as I'm sure everyone else is. But
Yep.
yeah, I mean, we'll see. We'll see what the future brings. I'm still going to watch every game,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, same with me. Yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of in wait and see mode. I'm not. A lot of people were we've talked about this before. A lot of people were really upset with the Josh Allen pick. They shouldn't. They didn't think they should have picked him. They should have went with Rosen instead. I remain optimistic. I think Peterman might not get enough credit. I think just in terms of how hard it is to come back from a rough game like that, with the 5 interceptions, and then to be as disciplined and as optimistic as he can be. I think it's really impressed Sean McDermott, the head coach, a little bit. So I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how it all plays out.
So you came on my podcast to discuss the quarterback situation. Were you surprised when they traded AJ McCarron yesterday?
Well, after the third preseason game, no. But I was a little surprised just because I guess I was a little more hopeful that AJ McCarron was going to actually turn into something good. And then they just traded him away for a 5th-round pick, which is fine. You know what I mean? So I can't say I'm shocked. You know what I mean? Like, oh my God. But I can't say I expected that to happen either. So I don't know. We'll see.
Well, one thing I want to leave Bills fans with, if they're listening, is the fact that with that trade yesterday, now they have 10 picks in the 2019 draft, and they have over $80 million in cap space. So if this season ends up being terrible, for whatever reason, they still have a lot of ammo for the future. So the holes that they have this year aren't necessarily going to be there next year. They can actually get players. So I actually trust this coaching staff and front office for once. They're making moves where you're like, okay, that's
smart moves. Yeah.
Yeah. What's that like?
Yeah. Cool. So real quick, I just want to ask your opinion on this. I noticed that the Bears traded for Khalil Mack. They've picked up a couple of receivers. I think the receiver core is pretty deep. Mitch Trubisky is in his third year. I don't know. They're shaping up to be they're making some smart moves, and they're shaping up to be a pretty deep team. Do you think they're going to make a drastic improvement this year?
I don't know about a drastic improvement, but they're definitely on the right path. I mean,
Yeah,
this is, sure. I don't know if a second year, because Mitch Trubisky only played for a little bit of last season. I think he's going to take another year to develop, to find out if he's going to be the guy or not. If he takes a step forward, I mean, it all comes down to, as much as Khalil Mack is a great player, and he is, especially, from UB, the Buffalo connection there. I went to UB. It's good to have someone like that in the NFL. But, very rarely are defensive ends will make or break a team. I mean, they'll lift you over the top, but you still need a quarterback to play. So if Mitchell Trubisky is the guy and he continues to progress, I think they'll be a playoff contender. They just have a tough division. The Vikings are really good. They made the NFC Championship last year. Yeah. And then you have, the Green Bay Packers are perennial contenders for the Super Bowl. So it's just a tough division. For now. So no, it is interesting. The Khalil Mack trade. I thought that was kind of cool. Everyone was saying that he might go to Buffalo, and not that I wouldn't want the guy because the Bills need pass rush, but I mean, what's the connection? Just because he went to UB, like I don't get that.
Probably, yeah.
That's got to be it, because I mean, like I said, as a UB alum, as a Buffalo Bills fan, sure that'd be great, but like no reason why that would just happen. There's 32 teams,
Yeah.
It's just. I don't know. I thought that was unrealistic, and the Bills have no cap space this year. But I don't know. It is interesting. I think if you want hot take, I think the Raiders are going to be terrible this year. I think John Gruden is going to be the worst coach in the NFL.
Yeah,
he's just. How do you go from being a broadcaster for the last 10 years or whatever he has been to being an NFL coach again? I mean, all the moves he's been making have been like to pick up players in their 30s. I mean, Khalil Mack was an MVP, I believe, or at least he was an MVP runner-up. Yeah. He's only been in the league for 3 or 4 seasons. It's like, keep that guy, find a way to, I don't know.
But and then they traded for a quarterback who doesn't know the system. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
So
exactly. I don't know what he's thinking. But hey, he got a 10-year, $100 million contract to be the coach of the Raiders. I think he has a stake in the Raiders when they go to Las Vegas. So I mean, he's laughing all the way to the bank. So
yeah.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yep.
But yeah.
Cool. All right, so let's get into some football movies here. We'll get the other guys back in the discussion. So I just want to talk a little bit about some football movies. There's a ton of football movies, I think, and a lot of people have seen a ton of them. They're pretty popular, I think, in terms of cinema and sports movies. So we kind of wanted to highlight some of them. We wanted to give some recommendations, and if people are looking for a good football movie to watch or they haven't had time to watch some of the more recent ones. So let's start off with the best. So we'll start with Matt here. Matt, is there a football movie that you really like?
Yeah, so the one that immediately came into my mind that I put on the list was The Blind Side.
Ooh, okay, nice.
I think that movie is very cool. I think it tells it's football based, but it also tells kind of like a story about like helping others and stuff. And I'm Michael Orr was his name, right?
I think so. Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
So I've heard that movie really like makes Michael Orr seem like a complete idiot who like just doesn't know anything and stuff. I heard it's actually not like I'm sure they romanticized everything and made it a lot more like theatrical.
Yeah. Yeah.
But despite that, I thought that movie was really cool. I thought Sandra Bullock plays a super good character because it just shows all the range of characters that she can play.
Sure.
And I liked the story overall. So that's the first one that popped in my head. I like that movie a lot.
Cool. Yeah, I think the intent of that movie again is really good to tell that story of Michael Orr. And Nate, you had a chance to talk to Bills player Mike Love, and I think you've made the comparison kind of that, they have very similar stories. So how do you feel about The Blind Side?
So yeah, actually, everything that Matt said is accurate from what I've read and from interviews I've heard with Michael Orr. Is that it was definitely built up. Like there was a scene, I believe, where they said that Michael Orr's mother didn't really even know who he was because she was on drugs and she had so many kids.
Yeah.
But like it wasn't like that. Like Michael Orr is a pretty well-spoken guy, whereas in the movie they kind of make him sound like he has some issues, maybe he's on the spectrum or whatever, or he's just I don't know. But it's a great movie. Like I love that movie. That's definitely at the top of my list. And I did do an interview, quick plug for Circling the Wagons podcast. Undrafted defensive end Mike Love. I had him on actually a couple of times, and the first interview I did was a story about how he went to the University of South Florida, or before that rather. He was in a household where he didn't know his dad. His mom was a mother of boys, and he was just in a point where he didn't really like where his life was headed because his mom was working multiple jobs. He didn't really have a father figure at all, and he wanted more stability. So he actually went to his buddy's Dalton, I believe it is Dalton Martinez, and he saw that the family structure that he had growing up, and he wanted more of that. So he asked his mother if he could go and live with the Martinez family, and he did. And there was a little bit of a learning point, kind of like there was in The Blind Side, between Mike living with his new family and understanding things. But he ended up getting a scholarship. He went to the University of South Florida. His grades got better. He played football. He's a 6'3", 250-pound defensive end, and he ended up going undrafted just for some injury issues, but he ended up playing for the Bills, and recently he was cut before the 53-man roster, but then he got placed in the practice squad. So he's still with the Bills. He's still doing well. The guy is very intelligent. He has a master's degree.
Wow.
And yeah, he's just, but unlike The Blind Side, like he still has a very good relationship with his mother. He gives her a lot of credit, but he also gives the Martinez family, his second family, a lot of credit. Also, he calls the Martinez, I forget her name, but that mother, his other mom. And yeah, it's a good story. If you guys want to listen to the interview, he talks about meeting his father for the first time just recently, and yeah, it's kind of a cool, real life Blind Side story. And actually, kind of interesting is the I forget his name. I think it's Bill Martinez or Bob Martinez. He's actually now he's the manager for the Washington Nationals baseball team. So,
okay.
So kind of a cool, tie in there.
DC connection. Yeah.
There's your DC connection.
I like that.
Cool. Good pick, Matt. Nice. Alan, we'll swing it to you here. I got a feeling you're gonna throw us a curveball, maybe.
Oh, for my best?
Yeah, for your best.
Well, I think my best is pretty straightforward because I've really only seen like one actual football movie,
Oh, okay. All
and
right.
that was Remember the Titans, which I think is probably the most notable
I
football
think that
movie
was on
in
everyone's
existence.
top. Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, but of course somebody had to cover it, so I figured I'd
Go for it. Yeah. Give us a load on
This,
that.
I mean, this is just a beautiful movie. The theme that it has with racial inequality and actually like working through that and struggling through that is just an awesome overarching theme that they put into this that really just sells the whole movie.
For sure.
And I think it really takes front stage over the actual football aspect of the game. But they use football as kind of a means to really show the merging of racial equality and how it kind of came about in like the 70s or whenever this was taking place.
I really like the growth between the two. I think it's the quarterback or were they defensive ends or something like that? But
It's like a linebacker. Yeah. Those two linebackers.
Those
the
two
black
guys.
linebacker and the white
Yeah,
linebacker,
the one guy who ended up being on Sons of Anarchy, and the other guy who I forget the actor, but he's now very famous and been in a lot of things. I think he was on The Wire, actually. One ended up being on The Wire later on, and the other went to Sons of Anarchy. Nice
obscure fact there from Nick.
Yeah, hey man, it's a movie podcast. I really like the relationship between those two guys, and like minor spoiler alert, when the one guy, I forget his name now, gets in the car accident at the end of the movie, and how you see how close those two friends are. It's a good story. So yeah.
Left side, strong side.
Exactly.
Yeah, left. Oh yeah, man. Chills. Ooh. Thanks. So I thought that was really interesting. I love that movie. That was at the top of my list too. And I had to go back and I didn't watch it, but I reread the plot summary in IMDb, and I forgot that when Denzel Washington came in, because there was a lot of segregation still wherever that was. I believe it was a Virginia based football team.
I think it was. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And there was still a lot of segregation, so they brought Denzel Washington as the assistant coach, and because of things that were going on, the white coach who had won like 10 state titles or whatever was actually being thrown aside for Denzel Washington coming in out of nowhere, and Denzel Washington didn't even feel right taking the spot, but when he saw how much it meant to the black community in the area, he decided to take it. So there's that whole thing too. You were saying the middle line or the linebackers, the black one and the white one going back and forth, their coaches going back and forth, and eventually finding respect for each other too, which I thought was an amazing plot that happened, and I almost forgot about it until I read about it again. It was really quite a cool.
I remember even the coach's daughters were like at ends with each other and then ended up becoming friends in the end too, and it was kind of like a funny little take on just how deep rooted the like inequality was and how they at all levels they overcame it. So.
Yeah. Star-studded cast too. I mean, Ryan Gosling is in the movie. Donald Faison from Scrubs was also in the movie. And speaking of Ryan Gosling, there's a funny meme about Remember the Titans where it was like, let's just talk for a minute. Everyone seems to love Ryan Gosling. Let's just talk about how much of a liability he was on Remember the Titans. This is from a team perspective. It's a pretty
he was
funny
terrible.
Meme. Yeah, he was terrible. Awful football player.
He was like the third stringer that just had to be thrown in. He like so out of place, but now he's like, celebrity hunk or whatever, right?
Yeah.
A-list actor.
Great movie. Yeah, absolutely. Cool. Nate, why don't you go next here?
So this one's kind of a controversial pick because the other two were picked by Matt and Alan, and this is kind of controversial because some people don't consider it a football movie, but it takes place with football, and it's one of the few movies on the list that I have that actually uses NFL teams and franchises.
Okay.
It's Jerry Maguire.
Oh, wow. I didn't even think about that one. Okay.
I forgot about that movie.
So
Yeah.
Jerry Maguire in general is like a really good movie. I know the backdrop is that he's an NFL agent and he works with why can't I think of his name? Cuba Gooding Jr.
Yes. Yep.
Cuba? Did I say that wrong?
Cuba Gooding Jr. Yep.
And it was just a really well done movie discussing, how this guy came from being the cockiest, know-it-all agent to finding, that he was missing this thing in his life. He went and he wrote that huge manifesto or whatever, and then he got fired and he lost everything. And it was just like the people that stuck around him were the ones that he found that actually mattered. And it was a really interesting, I don't know, it's interesting. Even the football in it, like towards the end of the movie, I mean, it's kind of a backdrop, and then, you know, towards the ending, I know there's no spoiler alerts for movies that are probably 25 years old, but you know, the scene at the end when you think Cuba Gooding Jr. is like knocked out, you don't know what's wrong with him. His family's watching, and he's trying to get that big contract.
Yeah.
And then, you know, he scores his first touchdown, and then all of a sudden he snaps out of it. And he takes them, and then he does this huge, amazing celebration, and like the crowd goes wild. And
And
he finally gets that $1 million contract, which is not only what he and his family needed, but what Jerry Maguire needed to, you know, become legitimate in his own right. And I don't know, it was a good story. There's a love story, obviously, you know, with Renee Zellweger, which is really good too. But I don't know.
Awesome.
Hey, fun fact about that story. The first time I watched that movie was at home on HBO with my parents while the sex scene happened at the very beginning of the movie, which super awkward. Have you guys talked about that on previous podcasts?
No, but I was once you brought it up, I'm like, ooh, that'd be a good another
talk about Titanic
topic
and stuff.
Yeah. That's a good after dark topic, I think. We'll dock at that one a little. Most embarrassing movie moments with parents. Yeah.
Yeah, imagine like 11-year-old me who's like watching this, and it is a graphic sex scene. It's not just like, oh, there's these two people kissing and then you kind of fade out. Fade
to black. Yeah.
Which is funny because like I'd watch like zombie or like killer slasher movies with my dad. I'd be like, no, itchy, like some girl just gets slaughtered. We'd be like, oh, this is great, and then the sexy would come, and I'd just be like, oh, I'm just gonna go leave now.
Nice.
So yeah, that's my pick.
Cool.
It's a classic. I would watch that one again.
Nice. I like that pick. Yeah.
What do you got, Nick?
Well, my pick was Remember the Titans, but Alan kind of took that from me, so I'm gonna have to go with. So this one isn't the most accurate football-wise in terms of football movies, but it revolves around the game of football, and it kind of hit the peak of this particular actor. It's a comedy, and it involves a lot of foosball and hard hits, and some high-quality H2O, and that is with Adam Sandler's The Waterboy.
Classic.
By no means a good movie, but a very enjoyable movie. And if you don't watch that movie when it's on TV, or at least for a little bit, I mean, you got problems. I think it kind of goes right in with that little NFL blitz vibe with the hard hitting that was very popular in football for a while in like the late 90s, early 2000s. Very quotable movie.
Oh yeah.
You know, just a weird but hilarious comedy revolving college football and how much passion and craziness goes into college football. So yeah, The Waterboy.
Nice.
That's a good one. That was like peak Adam Sandler right after Happy Gilmore, Wedding Singer, and before Big Daddy. That's a good pick.
Yeah, I mean, even the one assistant coach who just mumbles all the time like he's from New Orleans or whatever. That craziness. Adam Sandler's like little posse of friends who's in every movie. The one guy, the needle dick guy or whatever.
Rob Schneider?
Rob Schneider, yes,
like,
yes.
You can do it.
Yeah. That whole thing, that's just great. I mean, it's a good movie.
Yeah. I think it just has a cute theme too about just how Adam Sandler kind of seemed like a dimwit and he wasn't very useful, but he had this gift and this talent, and how like you can get huge big things like that out of people that you wouldn't expect it from, and everyone can kind of have their little thing that they're good at, and like not to judge people too hardly. So I think it kind of had a cute little theme too.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. Any honorable mentions here before we move on to kind of the worst or the not so good rather? Any? Yeah. Go ahead, Nate.
So I have a couple.
Okay.
Since I did a little research for this football themed podcast.
Sure, go for it.
One that has to be on the list is Rudy.
Yeah.
So this is a movie which I'm sure you're all familiar with, but this football player for this kid who's basically they talk about him being 5'0", and all he is a hard worker. His family worships Notre Dame football, which back in the day, I mean, we don't know this because it hasn't been the same since we've grown up. But Notre Dame football was like, especially for if you were Catholic, like you watched that every Saturday.
Oh, wow,
like it was
okay.
almost like going to church. Like I know people from my father's church who, like, all their children, even though they live in New York, they all go to Notre Dame. Like that is like a religion to some people. So when this movie takes place is during that time of American life, and it was just a cool movie about this kid who, wanted to all he wanted to do was play for Notre Dame, and he worked his way up. He played in Temple or this like JUCO college, junior college, and ended up getting good grades and ended up becoming coming on the practice squad. Which, for people that don't know, football is basically you're like the tackling dummy of the starters.
Okay.
So they'd show him getting his butt kicked, like practice in and practice out, until finally, in the last game of his senior year, everyone wanted Rudy to start, so the coach wasn't going to put him in. So they all, like, one by one from the quarterback on, they all put their jerseys on the table of the coach's office and said, if you're not going to play Rudy, I'm not going to play.
Wow,
so it's kind of a cool moment, like very Hollywood moment.
Yeah.
So, but fun fact about that is that actually didn't happen. The coach was very much for starting Rudy, and he ended up getting basically what happened in the movie is he ended up playing one play, and in that one play he had a sack and ended the game and gets carried off, which is true. He did get carried off, and he's like one of two people in like Notre Dame history to ever get carried off the field. So
Oh, wow. Okay.
kind of cool.
And of course stars Sean Astin, famous for a ton of stuff: The Goonies, Stranger Things, Lord of the Rings. Yep.
Yeah.
All that stuff. So cool. Nice.
So, and then I also have honorable mentions, Little Giants.
That was gonna be my pick, so good. I'm glad you brought that
yeah.
up. I love Little Giants. Yeah,
I forgot about
Rick
that.
Moranis. Yeah, I mean, go for it, Nate. Yeah.
Yeah, Ed Helm, is that who they?
Was
the
it
other
Ed Helms?
coaches?
Man
Yeah,
in Black.
Al Bundy.
Oh boy.
Yep.
Dang.
Wait, Ed Helm? No, I'm not the Man in Black. Who's Al Bundy? Ed. Why can't I think of his name?
But
but
is
anyway,
it the guy from Modern Family?
Yes.
The grandpa from Modern Family.
Grandpa.
He was the other coach, right? Yes. Okay.
Yes.
Married with Children guy. I
Married
forget
with
his
Children
name.
guy.
Okay.
Thank you.
I
Yeah.
don't know.
Okay.
But yeah, he was in it. Yeah, just kind of a cool little story. They brought in NFL players in it. I don't know if you remember, but like Bills player Bruce Smith, but they had like I think Emmitt Smith and a couple of other guys that were around at the time. Oh, it's a classic one.
Awesome.
And so another one I wanted to bring up too was one I just finished today because it's on Netflix.
Okay.
And I'd heard great things about it. Is Friday Night Lights.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So I don't know if you guys have seen the TV series or whatever, but this is like the epitome of Texas high school football, because unlike, where we grew up in New York, like high school football is like important, but it's not really, a thing.
Mm-hmm.
But there it's like I was saying about Notre Dame being religion for like, Catholics in the 60s, like this is religion for
It's
all
everything.
Texas.
Yeah.
It's everything.
Yeah.
Everything. And they show that, like they show former players coming up and showing their state, championship rings. Like, you guys are going to win one this year, right? Saying how we're like, guys, it's going to leave and whatever. It's really cool. And just to see, we're talking, so we did that country podcast and country music. Tim McGraw is in this movie, and he is such a dick. he's one of the kids' fathers, and like he won a state championship, and his son kind of like fumbles the ball all the time. So he's the kind of dad that like gets on the field during practice, like pulls him aside and says, "Hey, stop fumbling the ball. You're making me look like an idiot." And throws him on the ground. It's like,
wow.
I mean, that just goes to show you, like, that's what it's like there. So I mean, I would recommend that. It has a lot of really, really good actors in it.
Yeah.
So yeah, Billy Bob Thornton is the coach of the team. And if you guys haven't seen the TV show, I caught the first season of Friday Night Lights. It was amazing. Kind of picks up a little bit where the movie leaves off. And
is it a direct sequel to the movie?
So what's interesting is there's a couple of the same actors and actresses from the movie. Okay. Like, one thing that we've never dealt with in our lives, and I never played football in high school or anything like that, is like,
no.
No, exactly. Is like boosters. Like boosters are big down there. They like help fund money for the team to buy nice stuff, equipment, new stadiums, all that stuff. And one of the boosters is one of the main characters in the TV show.
Okay.
So I forget his name, but then also the wife of the head coach of Billy Bob Thornton in the movie is also the wife of the head coach in the movie. So there's some similarities between actors and actresses, and they use some of the same theories or some of the same storylines, but kind of just a little bit different enough, and obviously drawn out more for an entire season, because it's like 15-20 episodes as opposed to one 2-hour movie. So it's pretty good though. Yeah, I mean,
Nice.
I'd recommend both if people haven't heard of them. That's really my last honorable mention.
Nice. Good picks, Nate. I like the Little Giants pick. I have a couple. One is very loosely about football, and that's Ace Ventura, Pet Detective. Kind of revolves around the Miami Dolphins. A lot of Miami Dolphins football players are featured in the show.
Yeah.
Not really a football movie, but a really good movie and a really funny movie. So Ace Ventura would be an honorable mention. And apologies to all the hardcore football fans who are like, what? How could you not do like Necessary Roughness and all that? It's like, I like Ace Ventura. So
that's a good movie. I actually did have Necessary Roughness in my honorable mentions, but yeah, I mean, the Ace Ventura, man.
Yeah,
that totally beats that out.
And of course, it goes without saying, like, if we're going down the comedy route, Longest Yard, movies like that, also very good. Good on the comedy side, anyway. All right, so real quick, we're running a little long here today. Let's just talk a little bit about the worst. We'll just give a quick snippet of the worst. I think we all kind of know what we're going to talk about in terms of worst football movies. At least Nate does, and then we'll leave it at that here. So, Nate, you had a whole episode on your show devoted to this movie as the worst, and after listening to it, I have to kind of agree. And watching some of the movie, it's pretty bad, and that is the movie Draft Day with Kevin Costner. Nate, just high level, without getting too into it, just tell us why this movie is terrible from a football perspective.
Well, I'll have to not get into it too much, because I think that the actual podcast episode was almost as long as the movie itself. I believe it was like an hour and a half.
Jeez.
And it was a terrible. So the reason why this was terrible movie is not because of Kevin Costner did a bad job or any of the actors or actresses. It was terrible because the NFL built this up to be. It was one of the few movies that we've gone through that was actually gave the license to these teams to actually use their name. I mean, if you go back to a lot of these movies that we've discussed, The Longest Yard or whatever, like they weren't really given the rights from the NFL to use their. So Any Given Sunday, like it's not like the New York Giants, it's some weirdo team you never heard of. The Replacements is the same way.
Yeah.
This movie was given the NFL's blessing. So you're hearing this, you hear Kevin Costner's going to be in it, and you're like, wow, this could be amazing.
And originally, it was supposed to be the Bills, right? That was going to be the main team. Instead,
it was
it ended up
supposed to be
being
the Bills. Yep.
Instead, it ended up being the Cleveland Browns.
Yeah, I guess financially, it was cheaper to film in Cleveland as opposed to
Buffalo,
New York State, which makes sense.
That makes sense. Yeah,
New York State is very expensive. So, but then again, we talked about that in the podcast. Did it really matter? I mean, they didn't really show a whole lot of Cleveland. It was so. It could have been done in a studio or any location. It's like The Office isn't filmed in Scranton, Pennsylvania, but you don't know any better.
Right.
Just watch, you're like, oh, that looks like it could be Scranton. Who knows? It's in California somewhere. So
yeah.
So yeah, it was supposed to be Buffalo, which I'm glad it wasn't, because it was a terrible movie.
Oh, yeah.
It was just for especially for someone like me who I love the draft. It's one of the best parts of football, because it's like these future players are going to be either amazing players for your franchise are going to be complete busts. It's just this kind of cool thing that you're always going to remember. Like, oh, I remember watching this guy get drafted or whatever. And you see these like young college kids, all of a sudden go to the NFL and become millionaires and either become successful or not. It's a really, I mean, they all have stories behind them. I talked about Mike Love's story. Mike Love went undrafted, but there are so many other guys like that do get drafted and have great stories. So you kind of hear about it. It's kind of like the Olympics, like when you hear about people from other countries and the things that they've gone through and you hear a story behind them, it kind of makes you root for them a little bit more.
Sure.
But yeah, the draft day was just, it was unrealistic. The things that happened, I mean, it was just from a logical standpoint, it's like, well, why didn't you guys do any research on this guy before the day of the draft? I mean, they're literally people spending millions of dollars on research just to go through every single stupid player in college. And then one of the major players, you're like, oh, we haven't looked at him. Look at him at the last hour before the draft and see if we like him. Like,
yeah,
I don't know. It's just
not accurate to how it actually gets done. It was very Hollywood, the whole movie.
It was all Hollywood, and
Yeah.
I think so. Like, if you don't pay attention to football whatsoever, like you might really like this movie, because we went over the 5-star reviews on Amazon.
Okay.
And all of the 5-star reviews were like, well, I'm not a big football fan, but and I don't like this, but like
Yep.
I don't like a lot of swearing in my movies, but and there's definitely PG, and like so if they had gone completely Hollywood, it would have been much better. Than they kind of tried to do Hollywood, but like, real strong NFL fans. So they kind of try to merge them together and make it PG-13. And it's like, man, you got to do one or the other, because you didn't do either very well. And I don't know, I was expecting a lot more. I was disappointed.
Yeah.
And for anyone that like knows, like there's this draft value chart. So like the first overall pick in the draft is worth, like, let's say 10,000 points, something stupid like that. So like they were trading picks left and right, which made for really interesting, cinematic experience if you don't know that. But if you like did the math, it was like 300 points versus 5,000 points. It's like, that's not even realistic. Nobody on earth would make that trade.
Right.
So,
Right.
But anyway, if you guys want to hear more about like us trashing this movie, and I wanted it to be good. I just, you guys have movies like that, right? Where you see certain things. I mean, maybe not Star Wars because it's been good, but just movies like the Indiana Jones movie, the latest one. Like, I wanted that to be so good.
Yeah, and it was trash. Yeah. I think we've even had some games that have been the same way. Like, we was hoping it would be so awesome, and then it just fell flat. But cool. We'll post a link to that episode in the description of this episode, Nate, so people can go check that out if they want to talk about the full negative review of Draft Day. So Nate, thanks for coming on today. Before we leave, is there anything going on with your podcast or anything that you want to plug or give a shout out to?
Yeah, so you can find the Circling the Wagons podcast everywhere where you can find the Torrent podcast. And actually, you guys have the really cool TeePublic store with a lot of cool images. The hot crochet,
yes,
from the famous hot crochet episode.
Oh yeah, tried and true, baby.
Awesome. Tried and true. Yep. There's also some artwork on for our Bills fans out there, some really cool ones about trusting the process, the end of the drought graph, the Circling the Wagons podcast logo, which I think is pretty kick-ass, and stuff like that, like everything that you can find for the Torrent podcast, like on t-shirts and mugs and artwork and cell phone cases and all that stuff, you can find at our TeePublic store. So it's teepublic.com/stores/CTW pod, which is also our Twitter account. It's Charlie Tango Whiskey Pod. So it's going pretty well. Yeah, so follow us there. And, if you're a Bills fan or know someone that is, if you want to pass it on, it's cool. But, I mean, it's an exciting season, man. It's that time of year, us talking about football movies, us talking about, all these different things, songs, getting me Jock Jams, getting me hyped up, man. I'm really excited that football is starting.
Yeah, man. And you guys usually post episodes Sunday night. You give usually game reactions, right? So if people are watching Bills games and they want to hear some talk about the game immediately, they can go right to you guys for reactions to the game.
Exactly. You want game recaps, we'll do that. We're actually doing a season/week 1 preview this week, where we're going to discuss a lot of the things that you and I discussed tonight. Just, where do we see the team? We'll go a lot more in depth. I'm going to do an interview with some Bills contributors from different blogs and stuff like that. So kind of get some different perspective and then give us our own. And, looking forward to week 1. And, hopefully all your fantasy football teams are doing well and your NFL teams do well. And I don't know, man, it's a good time of year.
Awesome. Cool. Well, thanks for coming on once again, Nate. Hope you had a good time, and good luck to the Bills this season.
Yeah, man. Thanks a lot for having me on. Love your podcast. Love the things that you guys are doing. Avid listener and subscriber. And it's fun to actually talk to you guys about something else, that I'm an expert on besides country. So, hey.
Awesome. Well, next week on the show, we are doing our first ever song battle. I don't know, Alan, Matt, I don't know about you guys. I'm kind of super excited for this episode here.
It's gonna be a big hit or a total fail. Either way, it'll be cool.
Yeah. So we'll explain the full rules next time. But what we're essentially doing is we're picking a song title, and then we're going to see who has the best. So it's going to be Song Battle Amsterdam. So if you want to do a little research before our next episode, go look up every song with the title of Amsterdam, figure out which one is your favorite, and then see how it fares in our tournament bracket. So all that and more next time on the show. This has been an episode of The Torrent. We'll see you next time. Well, that's it for this episode of The Torrent. Thank you all for listening. Download, rate, and subscribe to the podcast on your favorite podcast service. If you want to get in contact with us, feel free to send us an email, thetorrentpodcast@gmail.com. You can also get in touch with us on Facebook and Twitter @TheTorrentPod. We'll see you guys next time.